From the Victory Studios in downtown Little Rock, this is Capitol View with your host, Jesse Tenor.
Good Sunday morning to you and welcome into Capitol View. I'm Jesse Tenor. This week we got the very unique opportunity to talk to all four of Arkansas's representatives in Congress together. On Thursday, you heard them discuss major issues like health care, the Russia investigation, and the budget. And this morning, our very own Drew Petchmo picks up the conversation in Washington, and I'll be back here with your questions submitted on social media. Here's part 2 of Your Voice, Arkansas.
Representative Crawford, you are on the House Intelligence Committee. Obviously no small task when we're talking about ISIS, North Korea, and so on. When it comes to all the threats that you hear and see working on that committee, what keeps you up at night?
You know, a lot of things that I can't share that are, you know, a real concern for me. You know, a lot of the technology is being exploited and used against us. North Korea obviously is a big threat to us. You know, that presents a very real challenge. China, quite frankly, is a concern. We have some issues south of our border in our hemisphere that, you know, that we don't talk a heck of a lot about, but that are very pressing. And you know, think about our Mexican drug cartels and the challenge that they present, the threat that they present along our southern border, but that goes all the way down into South America, and there's a vast network there that presents a real big threat to the United States and our allies, and not just you know the threat of violence, but the drug trafficking that they're engaged in, and the extent to which that endangers our citizens here in the United States and elsewhere.
Representative Hill, I want to talk a little bit about your work on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Fighting terrorism, obviously not just about boots on the ground and bombing. Also, you've been focused on trying to dismantle financial networks that fund those enterprises. How do you feel like we're doing as a country in dismantling those networks?
I think, first of all, we in the United States are doing a good job because we have the most sophisticated interdiction system for financial efforts to stop terror financing. But we've got to do that in partnership around the world. And so that's why I appreciated President Trump when he went to the Middle East, brought up the issue of Qatar. And that's been a controversy in the news recently, but they have been a principal funder in this arena. And it's been an issue where we see, Congressman Crawford talked about drug cartels. We've seen connections between the drug cartels and trade-based money laundering in Africa and the Middle East, all of which is funding terror that has threatened Europe and threatened the United States. So it's a primary function and obligation of our Treasury Secretary to focus on it. We're trying to give them the tools, the legal tools necessary through the banking system, through trade-based money laundering, and through the legal system on beneficial ownership to identify these people and stop them before the terrorists get the funding.
Let's go back to Little Rock. We want to take another question from a viewer with Jesse.
Yeah, hi, Drew and Congressman. This question is from Jonathan Lewis, and he's saying there are too many of us veterans out here struggling because of our disabilities, and the promise that jobs will look at you first before someone with a degree. And he goes on to detail struggles with PTSD and deep depression, and also having to wait years for VA help.
Representative Womack, there's been a lot made of the failures of the VA. What improvements have been made under the new Congress and the new administration?
Well, let's begin with the fact that not just a couple of weeks ago we had Secretary David Shulkin in town in the 3rd District that visited the Fayetteville Veterans Facility. Very impressive visit. So, and look, as French said earlier, you know, President Trump has surrounded himself with some pretty good people, and I would say that David Shulkin is one of those. He comes from a very impressive background of you know, management of medical facilities, so he gets that part of the Veterans Administration. In the Milcon VA bill that we have passed in the House Appropriations Committee, we pump more money into the VA than ever in the history of this country. So it's not just a money issue, and these aren't just money issues. Some of these issues go right to the heart of management and go right to the heart of collective bargaining. There's a lot of protection that goes on for people that commit waste, fraud, and abuse within the system that we need to continue to address, and we've done in the House. We've passed legislation in the House that addresses some of those issues. But in our Milcon VA bill, a large percentage of that money going for health care is now targeted to people with PTSD, other traumatic brain injury issues, opioid abuse. There's a lot of that. What to do about the tremendous suicide rate that's going on among veterans. And then I'm pleased to say that in the 3rd District of Arkansas, as there is around our state, a tremendous outpouring of support for veterans, and places like Walmart and Tyson have specific programs designed to target veterans for employment. So we're doing a better job as a country of that, honoring the commitment and the sacrifice made by our veterans.
Congressman Westerman, let's talk about your service on the Natural Resources Committee in the House. You've been taking a keen interest in some forestry issues, watched some of the hearings. The bill that you have that would open up some federal lands to logging operations, you say it will create jobs and help reduce forest fires, but there have been some critics of the legislation saying it's a giveaway to the timber industry and it circumvents input from the public and scientific community. Tell me a little bit about what your bill does and respond to some of the criticism.
Yeah, well, the bill is aimed at increasing forest health and making our forest resilient and healthy again. We're seeing record numbers of forest fires across the country. A lot of them are out west, and 56% of the Forest Service budget went to fight forest fires, mainly out west. That takes money away from managing the Ouachita Forest, the Ozarks, and St. Francis Forest in Arkansas. And the goal of this is to have a healthy forest. The 4th District's 86% forested. The forest products industry's thriving there. We know how to manage forest in Arkansas for multiple uses. Our non-industrial and private landowners are producing timber faster than it can be used, and as a matter of fact, we produce 16 million tons a year more timber this year than what was standing last year. So Arkansas is doing great at sequestering carbon. You look at states like California where they're not managing, their timber's going up in flames. They're a net polluter. Their forests there's fewer trees standing in California now than there were this time last year. You look across the South where we implement scientific management practices, we get healthier forests, we get better economies. We see rural America that's hurting because of previous policies that were placed on the Forest Service. And
what about the criticism that this is kind of opening it up to the wild, wild west of logging in these forests?
The national forest needs industry much worse than industry needs the national forest. We can produce the timber that we need in this country, for the most part, off of private land. I say we've loved our trees to death. We've wanted to protect them so much, and we don't recognize the fact that they're living, growing organisms. They grow up, occupy all the growing space, they get diseased, insect infested, lightning strikes, and they burn to the ground. And we're sending hundreds of millions of carbon up into the atmosphere. We're the energy equivalent of 25 billion gallons of gasoline goes up in forest fires every year. And it's a tragedy that we're leaving our federal lands in worse shape for future generations than what we're receiving them in. It goes against Gifford Pinchot and what the Forest Service was established about.
Much more to come after a quick break, including discussion of Cuba trade policy with one congressman who's been sharply critical of President Trump's stance on that issue.
We can't continue to do the same thing that we've done over the last 60 years and expect a different result.
You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Summers are all about vacations and making memories. What better way to enjoy the great outdoors than in the comfort of a rented RV from River City RV Rentals in Sherwood? At a family-friendly price with all the comforts of home, you'll be amazed at the vacation possibilities. River City has a huge selection of luxury RVs and travel trailers to choose from, and we're sure to have one that's right for you and your family. There's never been a better time to start making memories that last a lifetime. Give us a call to schedule your RV rental soon. Remember, life's a trip. Take it.
Handshake agreements may seem right at the time, but that doesn't mean they are enforceable. I'm attorney Casey Ziegler, and at the Nash Law Firm, we make sure your interests are protected. Whether you're buying or selling a home or deciding who will get it when you're gone, I can help. Call me today.
Mom life is a wildlife. Then some days the animals run the zoo. But it's worth it for the bear hugs. And when it comes to feeding time, you've got this. Land O'Frost Premium Lunch Meat. Lots of protein, perfect for their lots of energy. When they love it, you'll find a moment of peace in the jungle. Lando Frost. What those wild ones want to eat. Oh, I'll take it. Okay.
Come on.
The moment you realize you have a one-person vanity but a four-person family.
At Lowe's, we have the latest styles and trends to fit your budget. All projects have a starting point. Start with Lowe's.
Hurry into Lowe's and get up to 40% off select bath products.
Thanks to you, KARK4 is now Little Rock's fastest growing station because family matters, health matters, faith matters, Arkansas matters. Thanks for watching KARK4, local news that matters. You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View. Our viewers submitted several questions for Arkansas's 4 congressmen, among them State Senate Majority Leader Jim Hendren. He wanted to know, will you vote to remove DOD from sequestration caps or support Senator Tom Cotton's effort to repeal the Budget Control Act? Here's their answer.
Absolutely. Look, the Budget Control Act, through all of its noble purposes, has done a lot more harm than it has good. The sequester has forced tens of billions of dollars in cuts to our national security apparatus that has made this country less safe. All the while, we've pumped a lot more money into non-defense discretionary programs. But I believe that the sequester has been harmful, and I would love for our House to take up the discussion as to what we can do, on one hand, to relieve the sequester, but on the other hand, to get back to what has been already discussed by this panel, and that is how do we get into cuts to the mandatory side of spending, which is about 70% of all federal spending. It's on autopilot. Congress needs to muster the courage and the will to make our social safety net programs sustainable for the future and be able to get to those programs and be able to solve for the growing debt and deficit crisis that's facing our country. We cannot continue to take a disproportionate share of those cuts out of our national security apparatus. So I appreciate Senator Hendren for making the comment. You know, he's an Air Force pilot, decorated war veteran, so he's somebody that truly understands the damage that has been done to our national security apparatus as a result of the sequester.
Change topics a little bit. President Trump recently announced a rollback of travel and economic ties between the U.S. and Cuba. Representative Crawford, this has been an issue that you've been front and center on. You were sharply critical of that decision. Safe to say that your views on Cuba more align with previous President Obama's than the current administration?
No, that's not safe to say. It's safe to say that I believe that we should re-engage with Cuba in a more productive manner. I don't appreciate the pathway that President Obama took. In fact, he should have consulted Congress before he did anything. Instead, he took executive action and brought in the Pope, sought his counsel and others, but he didn't seek counsel from Congress. President Trump undid that, okay? He didn't necessarily do everything that I wanted to see him do. But what he did do was leave the door open for us for agricultural trade. That's an important consideration for a variety of reasons. One, it's important for us when we're on a 4-year slide, a 50% decline in farm income. We need every market we can get. And Cuba presents not a silver bullet to the ag economy by any means, but about $1.5 billion to $2 billion market where Arkansas goods could actually go to Cuba, and we could help augment that farm income and get it on an upward trajectory. So that's where I am in this whole debate about, and that door was left open for us, quite frankly, when he specifically left agriculture alone. So we do have an avenue there to pursue ag trade with Cuba. And I think long term what this does, it allows us to establish a niche there, and I think we can overcome Cuba economically and help affect change there in a positive way and steer them in a way that is beneficial not only to Cuba but beneficial to the United States.
You for a full repeal of the embargo?
I don't support that necessarily immediately. I would, if it came to the floor, yes, I would vote for it. But what I do support is that we can't continue to do the same thing that we've done over the last 60 years and expect a different result. Agriculture really tees up the travel and further repeal of embargo, but I think this is a good first step. It allows us to sort of, dip our toe in the water and say, look, we want to participate in Cuba, but we've got some concerns. We'll start with this humanitarian issue. There's a lot of upside for U.S. producers and the U.S. economy. And quite frankly, this is beneficial to the Cuban people, and we certainly want to win hearts and minds there, and I think the Cuban people are primed for that.
Representative Hill, I wanted to ask you about crime in Little Rock. This has been a major problem so far this year. We saw 25 people get shot at a nightclub earlier this month. There have been multiple murders again this week. How are you getting involved to try to push back on that?
Thanks, Drew, and I appreciate Channel 4 and Fox 16's personal engagement on the community conversation about this. For me, there are two issues here. One is a law enforcement operation, and I was very pleased to see Mayor Stodla and Governor Hutchinson come together and bring in federal resources and state resources to help work under the leadership of the city of Little Rock to deal with the law enforcement aspect of it. But for me, the issue is the community. We shouldn't tolerate our teenagers killing each other like we have been in recent weeks. So what I've tried to do is bond together with friends that are engaging our youth and talking about here's what they need to be doing about learning a skill, staying in school, finding a future, having an aspiration. And I'm proud to partner with people like Muskie Harris, Fitz Hill, and others who are working with our youth to engage these kids we're leaving behind. Because a lot of this violence is about no hope in our inner city. And I think we as a community have to come together, neighborhood by neighborhood, church by church, synagogue by synagogue, mosque by mosque, and say we are going to reject violence in our community, and we're going to give our kids the right course of action. And that is what I'm trying to help do as just a citizen, because I believe so strongly we want to return not just safety to our streets, but we want to have our kids feel like they've got a bright future in Central Arkansas.
A lot of factors are at play when discussing violence in Arkansas communities. One of the major accelerants is drug use. Coming up, we go in depth with the congressman to discuss addiction.
It's affected me personally. I'm the only guy up here, I think, that has a direct family member that has been affected by an addiction problem.
You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Here you go, little guy. A cockroach can survive submerged underwater for 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Not getting in today. Not on my watch.
Pests never stop trying to get in. At Terminix, we never stop working to keep them out. That's what makes us America's leading pest and termite control provider, because we do whatever it takes to stop them in their tracks. For a free pest estimate, call 1-800-771-0345. Take action to protect your home today. And if pests ever do come back, so will we. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. For a free pest estimate, call 1-800-771-0345 or visit Terminix.com. Terminix, defenders of home.
Tired of sealing your wood, concrete, or masonry? Permaseal's unique process and cutting-edge technology is backed by a 25-year warranty. Unlike top-coat sealants that last a year or two, Permaseal is a penetrating sealant that goes past the surface, making it solid and 23% stronger. Just watch. Baking soda has the same pH level as wood and concrete. Mixed with our specialized sealant, it becomes completely solid in only seconds. Environmentally safe products, done on time and on budget. Free estimates with no obligation. Call Permaseal today and get 25% off.
Long live the fearless, and long live the trucks with load-leveling suspension to shoulder the weight. You connect with an 8.4-inch touchscreen and the superior ride and handling to help you go above and beyond. Get a great deal on America's longest-lasting pickups during the Ram Summer Clearance Event.
Get 0% financing for 72 months or an average $11,955 in total values on Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab.
Caught in the rain? Should have watched Pat Walker this morning. Weather on the Fours with Pat Walker. Weekday mornings on KARK4 Today.
Attention Morrilton home buyers and real estate investors. Absolute Real Estate Auction Tuesday, August 15th at 10 a.m. Offering a 4,700 square foot, 4-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom, custom built home. Selling regardless of price on auction day. For auction details, go to wilsonauctioneers.com.
Sold it, sold it, sold it.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View. You've heard Arkansas's congressmen discussing big issues affecting Washington and Arkansas. And for many local communities, no issue is bigger right now than drug addiction. Viewer Jeffrey Nouveau asked this of Arkansas's representatives. What will be done to combat the opiate epidemic? Users, not dealers. Giving stiffer sentences hasn't ever worked. Here's their response.
We've passed legislation out of the House to try to address this and combat it. But some things that I've seen working in Arkansas and in my district that I think the rest of the country could learn from is our drug court system. It works quite well in Arkansas. There's a good one in Garland County. There's one down in Jefferson County. And it's really aimed at treating people and treating their illness and trying to give them every last chance to avoid the prison system, which is not good for them. It's not good for the taxpayer. And it's certainly not good for the families of some of these people that may be depending on them for support. So we've talked about anti-poverty programs that work, and a lot of times substance abuse is intermingled with poverty. And these are things that we want to be proactive on to help people that have substance abuse problems, and the drug courts have worked well in Arkansas.
Congressman Womack, how in your district have you been impacted by the opioid abuse epidemic?
Well, forget the district. It's affected me personally. I'm the only guy up here, I think, that has a direct family member that has been affected by an addiction problem. Look, addiction is a disease. It is not necessarily a moral failing. And you can't just take people with addictions, criminalize them, lock them up, and throw away the key, and then some time period later let them out and hope that that issue has gone away. It doesn't work that way. We have to destigmatize somehow the conditions that our young people and some of our older people have gotten themselves into. And I'm like Bruce. I am a big fan of the drug courts. That is a long period of time where under certain types of supervision and certain requirements that people have to meet these requirements in order to have criminal records expunged. And it works. It's not 100%. It's not 100% solution. No program will be. But our country needs to understand that this is a major issue facing everyone, whether you have somebody involved or don't. It's an economic productivity issue. It's a family issue. Everybody should be engaged on it so that we can come up with solutions that help get these people out of this condition and make them productive again. And then they manifest themselves in a lot of other ways: property crimes, crimes against people, and those kinds of things. So let's get to the root of the problem and let's find that solution. And then at the federal level, let's make sure our resources are going into those programs that are proven effective, and let's find those cures. There is something out there that we can discover that can help solve the addictive principles that go with people so afflicted.
Representative Hill, representing more of an urban district, and I know that drug abuse there has caused some of the same kind of down the line issues as he was just talking about. This shift that he's talking about and kind of the way that you look at drug abuse and addiction, how do you support that, and how do you see that playing out at a federal level?
Well, first I'll share Bruce's comments, constructive comments about, both of their comments about drug courts. We don't have one in Pulaski County. I've seen it be very successful in Faulkner County. I share that view because it's a way to get help to the people that need it. I also was pleased the state legislature enacted the registry on opioids for doctors, because how these drugs are prescribed, you just can't imagine how addictive these products are, and how then they lead to the stealing of the products, the trading of the products, the drug dealing aspect of it, and ultimately going to heroin. And so this drug registry, we've seen states that have done that. That's why I commend our legislature, declines in addiction to opioids that then lead to heroin abuse. So I believe in transitional programs. I think they work. It's just like a guy getting out of prison on parole. If there's no plan, why do you expect a low recidivism rate? So if there's no plan, someone who's addicted can't recover and rejoin our society in a productive way.
Running out of time here, I wanted to switch subjects a little bit and get Representative Crawford to talk about your STEM initiative in Northeast Arkansas, your vision for getting students engaged in math and science. How do you do that from a rural setting, and what's your plan moving forward?
Well, I'll try to make this quick. Rural America is at a competitive disadvantage. You know, it has to do with really one thing, connectivity. So all the problems that we've talked about are no different in rural America, but they may be a little more pronounced because we have that challenge of connectivity that hinders our ability to educate at the same level that we see in some major metropolitan areas. So that's step one, rural broadband. Step two is we're trying to educate our educators. And for so long, they have been sort of forced to push an agenda that was, you know, AP, we're going to send everybody to school, and we're going to get everybody a baccalaureate degree and further education beyond that even, and that's the pathway to success. We need to redefine what success looks like on an individual basis, and the fact of the matter is we hear this all the time, that there are more jobs out there than can be filled because people don't know they're there, or there is a deficit in soft skills, a variety of reasons why those jobs aren't being filled, and that's the case in Arkansas. So what we want to do is get educators to be aware, which is why we paired them up with our industry in the district, brought them out. They got some continuing education. We partnered with Arkansas State to get around. This is the second year we've done it, and it's been an overwhelming success because now they know what industry exists in and around them and what skill sets are required for these young people to be able to go out and be productive members of the economy.
We want to say a special thank you to the congressmen and their staffs for making this forum happen, and to you, the viewers, for submitting your questions. We're back to wrap it up after this. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
For years, men have enjoyed their man caves without guilt. Now, it's Mama's turn. Welcome to my she shed. Got my favorite outfit on, my literature, my Armando. And these are my treats. I'm just gonna have one if that's okay. Of course it's okay. This is my world. Fiber One 90-calorie brownies. All mine.
Big Ben's Retirement Auction. Complete liquidation of Big Ben's Seafood and Family Entertainment Center on Highway 64B in Bologna, Arkansas. A multi-use restaurant facility, 4-bedroom home, and quadruplex on over 5 commercial acres. Also selling an authentic Dale Earnhardt show card, NASCAR memorabilia, and collectibles, food truck, restaurant equipment, fixtures, and much more Friday, August 18th at 10 a.m. For more information, go to wilsonauctioneers.com.
Sold it, sold it, sold it.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And that's it for today's show. We want to know your thoughts on all of the issues we discussed during Capitol View, among the many others affecting our state. Make sure you use the hashtag #MyCapitolView on both Twitter and Facebook during and after the show so we can continue the conversation together. We're back with an all-new Capitol View next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
"25 soldiers created USAA to insure each other when no one else would. We created mobile deposit so members stationed across the globe could keep up with their finances back home. And now, we've created a checking account that actually pays you back for everyday banking. Introducing the USAA Cashback Rewards Checking Account with a debit card that gives you cash back. The next era of banking is here. Start earning your rewards today."
At K-12, we believe that every child is uniquely brilliant.
The quality of education that we have at K-12 is top-notch, and the kids want to learn more.
My teacher is amazing. I love her.
I get online learning, offline learning, and hands-on learning.
Join the growing community of K-12 families who have succeeded with an individually tailored, tuition-free online public school education. Call now or visit K12.com to learn more. Tuition-free for students in Arkansas.
Carl loves football, so he got DirecTV because of the football package. Sadly, just a few months into his 2-year contract, his rates are skyrocketing, so he had to find other ways to pay for his DirecTV. Take it or leave it.
It's a capacity crowd here today for...
Don't be football poor. Switch to Suddenlink and get TV, internet, and phone for only $59.99 a month for a year.
It's the bottle